If you're a real estate agent who believes homes and communities can drive real change, today's guest will inspire you. Steve Nygren is proof that one person can make a difference. He's the founder of Serenbe, a groundbreaking wellness community that blends green space, housing, agriculture, and retail, providing a more sustainable future that's not just possible, but profitable. This October, he releases Start in Your Own Backyard, a book about how small, intentional choices at home can lead to powerful community-wide impact. Steve also led the Chattahoochee Hill Country Alliance, preserving 70% of 40,000 acres outside Atlanta, while increasing housing density beyond typical sprawl. His vision has earned national awards for innovation, sustainability, and environmental justice. If you're ready to see how wellness, real estate, and leadership intersect, this episode is for you. Hi, welcome, Steve. I'm so excited that you are here.
Well, thank you. Looking forward to the conversation.
Yeah, welcome to the show. I'm really so honored to have you on as a guest. I had your daughter Garni on the show a few years ago, and I love what you've created with Serenbe.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, so we're here to talk about your book, Start in Your Own Backyard. And what does that actually look like for someone, who's a real estate agent who might be listening? How can we apply that mindset to our day-to-day work?
Well, I think today a lot of people are uh, looking for another situation,
Hmm.
shall we say. There's a lot of hopelessness, no matter where you're coming from or what your view is. And the book is intended to give people hope and another idea of what to do. And we know everyone cannot move to Serenbe. So
Hmm.
this is how we could imagine where we live, no matter where it is. And instead of worrying about big governments and big institutions, think about your own neighborhood and your own backyard, and
Hmm.
how can you use your talents to apply to changing some of those things? And so, I think the agents have got to be talking to those kinds of people every day,
Hmm.
that looking for change, looking what's different, or they look at a house and they're concerned about certain things in the neighborhood, and you could
Hmm.
inspire them to, hey, move in and take charge.
Yeah. Well, I love that. I love that you weren't a developer and this just kind of happened on you. So I've been reading your book and it is very inspirational. I love that you just didn't want urban sprawl to happen in your backyard. So you did it out of, self-preservation. But what
That's
you created is something pretty amazing. So maybe you could talk a little bit more about Serenbe for those of the people who don't know what Serenbe is.
Certainly. Well, we're part of metropolitan Atlanta, but we're in the Southwest corridor, which for many reasons had just not developed. There were not roads here. The schools were not great because the population just wasn't there. And so the development had gone in every other direction.
Hmm.
Uh, and so we bought this as our family farm when we lived in the center of the city,
Hmm.
for weekend getaways, when my daughters were very young, 3, 5, and 7.
Hmm.
Uh, and I found that rather than coming down a couple Saturday afternoons, they wanted to come every weekend. And we
Hmm.
had the greatest house in the city with pool and Barbie cars and Barbie rooms
Yeah.
and everything you could actually buy for three darling little girls. And yet, this is where they wanted to come, where we had no toys except a puzzle for
Mm-hmm.
rainy days. And so that was my real value shift.
Mm-hmm.
And so I sold my company and what I called stepping off the treadmill.
Mm-hmm.
And then in my seventh year of retirement is when we became concerned about urban sprawl. And we still like everything that a city has to offer. So I didn't want to drive or relocate to another hour away, 'cause
Mm-hmm.
we're 40 minutes from downtown Atlanta.
Mm-hmm.
And so we looked at alternatives, and we realized that there weren't preservation dollars to save it. I couldn't keep buying land. I started buying it at 900 acres. I realized I couldn't keep doing that.
Mm-hmm.
So we spent 2 years bringing 500 landowners together, and
Mm-hmm.
they were diverse as could be. It was land speculators, to people who had found this rural paradise on the edge of the city, to inherited landowners, and half of them said, "Bring on the bulldozers," and the other half said, "Don't touch this land."
Mm-hmm.
So it was an interesting 2 years of conversation, but in the end, we had consensus from 80%. The 20% that we didn't, just stayed home. They didn't participate.
Gosh, what do you think the turning point was to get that 80% consensus?
Well, we didn't come in with an idea that this is what we should do.
Mm-hmm.
It was that, do we really want this urban sprawl?
Mm-hmm.
And for the pro development, which were pro value, I was able to say maybe there's a different model to where we could actually raise the value rather than just develop it in a traditional way.
Mm-hmm.
Now, luckily, the Urban Land Institute had just released studies on why we had so many golf courses developed in the 70s, 80s, and 90s.
Mm-hmm.
It was because the bankers loved the fact that anything with a golf course had a higher value.
Mm-hmm.
And developers started learning that, hey, if you tell your banker you're putting a golf course in, they're going to give you the loans to develop the property.
Mm-hmm.
And so the study that was released showed that the majority of the people who owned those lots facing the golf course
Mm-hmm.
played golf twice or less a year.
Mm-hmm.
So they were buying it for the open space
Mm-hmm.
rather than to be on a golf course.
Yeah.
And so to those pro value people, I said, what if we could get a higher value by simply saving the forests and the farms, and we won't have
Mm-hmm.
the expense to both install and maintain? And that made a lot of sense, what
Mm-hmm.
I call common sense. And so I was able to get them to sort of support a preservation movement. And then on the other side, I went to the preservation, the people that didn't want any development, and said, hey, at best, we're going to save 15% of this area.
Mm-hmm.
You just look at all the trends everywhere else. How would we possibly do better?
Mm-hmm.
And I said, if we could get up to 40%, would you support development? And
Mm-hmm.
everyone said, oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And so suddenly we were able to get everyone around the same table talking about very different goals, but
Mm-hmm.
we could give them each what they wanted by a different plan that we weren't seeing anywhere in America. The closest thing I saw was the countryside of England,
Yes.
because after World War II, they had to put good land laws in because the island was only so big. They couldn't
Yeah.
afford the sprawl.
Yeah. Well, and I loved reading about that, how you said it's more of an omega or horseshoe pattern instead of a grid that you created Serenbe in. And so instead of that typical development, you were able to create more of a quaint, cottagey, like village type feeling without having to get ruin so much of the vegetation around.
Well, the big thing we did, and I through my journey of looking for people that understood what we wanted to do,
Hmm.
uh, the Rocky Mountain Institute helped me find Phil Tabb, who did his doctorate on the English village system.
Mm.
He also became a trained sacred geometrist, which really means, understanding the energy fields of the earth. Your old-time farmers, if they're going to go out and drill for a well, they get a divining rod. They understand that there's an energy, and so it's walking the land and creating a plan that responds to the earth and to the land rather than designing a plan remotely and then imposing it on the earth.
Hmm. Hmm.
And it really makes a huge difference. Um, People don't realize why they feel so different walking down our streets, and that's one of those things. It's the energy flows. You can actually sense that there's a calmer energy. And then,
Wow.
of course, we have several things that relate to that in the architectural styles or how we place the architecture and the massing.
So does that come from biophilic design? I know that you mentioned that a lot in your book. Do you feel like it's the biophilic design which has helped with the energy and the people feeling
Well,
connected to the neighborhood?
it's all absolutely related. So
Mm-hmm.
you're talking about everything related to everything living. So
Hmm.
it's the relationship of everything living, whether it's plants, the trees, the humans, the animals, and understand how we're all interconnected.
Hmm.
And so it's absolutely it's different components of the
Hmm.
same thing. And that's what, we started out just to save the land
Hmm.
and then realized that we had to develop a part of it. So that's where the 70 30 ratio came up with, that we were able to come together with the community and then actually change the zoning. that anyone developing in 60 square miles has to follow this. But then I started, and then we looked at the important things for a community, and studied developments of today and then places in Europe and even America from 100 years ago. And that was actually my great teachers. Because a lot of the things we intuitively did maybe a
Mm-hmm.
100 years ago related to what we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
So it was only in the middle of the recession when everyone tried labeling who Serenbe was and what we were doing, uh, that I came up with biophilic design really is the only thing that really explained what we were doing. Because while we're new urbanist, we're also environmental and have agriculture, which isn't necessarily true of all new urbanist communities. The
Right.
same thing, we were the beginning of the agrihood movement.
Mm-hmm.
And so all agrihood movements don't have the density or the bigger
Mm-hmm.
preservation. And then a lot of preservation communities don't have the density in the
Mm-hmm.
village centers. So none of the things that people were presuming we were fit fully. And that's
Mm-hmm.
what we came up with saying, oh, we're actually applying biophilic design to a community scale. And that fits beautifully in what we're doing.
Well, I love it. I do feel like anybody who is thinking of becoming a developer should really read your book just because there's so many insights in there. And it is a new way of thinking. I'm sure you know this, but the Global Wellness Institute says that wellness real estate is going to be worth nearly $1 trillion by 2028. And at the time I learned about it was 2018 and it was 150 billion or something. So that's huge growth.
It shows you that the market is starting to wake up to a lot of
Mm-hmm.
these issues.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the pandemic and studies post-pandemic are really bringing a focus into a lot of these issues that people weren't thinking about before. And no, the Global Wellness Summit, in fact, when they invited me to their conference in Marrakesh some 10 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
I was the only developer globally that was identifying as wellness real estate.
Wow.
And so
Wow.
they give us credit for actually identifying the movement before they had even started the research on it.
Well, I love it because it's very inspirational to see what you've done and because the neighborhood has been around for so long. How many years has it been now?
We broke ground 21 years ago, and so
Wow.
people have been living here now for 20 years.
Well,
It's
so
fun to
that's,
see some of these kids that were born here now are going off to college,
oh my gosh.
and oh my gosh, it's hard to believe those years, a child growing up really gives you a lens on how time is passing.
Yes, for sure. And I just feel like now people could probably do studies on your community. And I wonder what the connection is between the biophilic design and the health of the actual residents in your community.
We are looking for that third party to validate all of the stories and the things that everyone's telling us.
Mm-hmm.
We have 240 kids here with full-time residents, and not one report of asthma.
Really?
That is statistically impossible in the United States. Uh,
Wow.
one woman stopped me here a few months ago and said, I was on a diet for 20 years and it was controlling my life. And 10 years
Mm-hmm.
ago, I just gave it up. I decided I was just going to live a little heavy.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, we moved here about 6, 7 months ago at the time. And suddenly my clothes were loose and I borrowed a scale. And I had lost 16 pounds without thinking about it. And she
Wow.
said, I realize I'm walking so much more because you walk to get your mail, you walk to the
Yeah.
restaurants, you walk. And she said, and I'm exposed to fresh food,
Mm-hmm.
and I have to go out of my way to get institutional and fast food. And she said, it's just totally changed. It was just the reverse of the way we lived. And so I think we're not questioning why we are sicker than we've been some time,
Mm-hmm.
why we're more unhappy than most developing countries, and it keeps
Mm-hmm.
going down. And I believe, and I talk in the book that I believe it's the built environment.
Mm-hmm.
And why aren't we asking the questions why?
Mm-hmm.
Uh, why? we certainly would not be willingly raising our kids in places that was not healthy for them.
Right.
But we haven't seen enough examples of what's different
Hmm.
uh, because we keep doing the same thing.
Hmm. Well, and so does that mean that families are the typical target uh, family or like demographic that lives in Serenbe?
Not at all. It's a big range,
Hmm.
from singles to families to retired people. We have two or three people I can think of that have retired into their 90s. I mean, they've aged into their 90s. They weren't 90 when they moved here,
Yeah.
and they're still vital and moving. So, no, you'll see every age. In fact, that's why I say you come to visit Serenbe, and something that should seem very natural. People
Hmm.
comment on our free range kids and our uncaged elders.
Well, doesn't it stop the elders from, I mean, if they have to walk so far, do they think, oh gosh, I can't walk that far? Or that's just not a
Well, you
mindset?
see, what happens is we're creating places that support a sedentary lifestyle.
Mm,
And so as people age, their muscles stop working and they
mhm,
actually become less capable of
mhm,
walking. Now,
mhm,
you look at all the blue zones, they don't have elevators, they keep
mhm,
active and they
mhm,
stay healthy.
mm,
And so this is a good example that you bring that
mhm,
up. There's a preconceived idea of so many of these kinds of things. And what it's led to is we're accepting a system and environments that actually make us sicker.
mhm,
And aging in place is a good example.
mhm,
We're used to people not being able to, rather
mhm,
than not pampering them, if you will, and let
mhm.
them walk to the mailbox and walk to the restaurants. Totally capable if you keep doing it every day.
Right. I think I follow Gary Brecka. I don't know if you know that who that is. He's a human biologist who became a health coach person. But anyways, he had said that the this it's like the search for comfort. It's what's leading to the search or leading to more disease because we all just want to be comfortable and not do anything. That's actually not good for us.
No, I think that's exactly where we are.
Hmm.
We've searched for comfort and we value engineered all the places we live. And so they're no longer as beautiful as they once were. They're no longer as inspiring as they once were. And they're more convenient than is good for us.
Hmm. Well, and I love that biophilic design, it's not really anything new. And you see interior designers using these principles too to kind of make the home inside feel so much more, I guess, so that you're connected to nature even inside your home. Do
That's
you
right.
try to use those principles as you're building inside the house as well, not just the community?
Oh, absolutely. We have right now, they're here. It's a company, and they've brought 50 of their designers from coast to coast,
Mm.
and they're doing a 3-day meeting here,
Mm.
and really understanding nature and nature in the community, and then how that can come into the home. And they do office buildings and hotels and commercial things as well. But I think we're really going to see a huge movement.
Mhm.
In fact, the Global Wellness Summit Real Estate Conference in New York here earlier this year, you had people like J.P. Morgan Chase,
Mhm.
Heinz talking about nature forward,
Mhm.
uh, as well as biophilic designs. Now, just 5 years ago or pre-pandemic, you would have never heard major corporations talking about those kinds of things.
Right. Well, and that's why I just am so passionate about just educating real estate agents because I feel like they're the key to educating just people who are looking for homes because they're the ones that are in the homes, they're the ones recommending what you do to your home or connecting you with other professionals. So I really want them to just be exposed to this whole movement of wellness real estate because not only could you incorporate some biophilic design principles before you're selling and maybe have people feel good in the home, but just helping, I feel like everybody deserves to live in a healthy home, not just people who can live in Serenbe. So there's got to be ways that you connect with other healthy home professionals in your area and you start educating people on how they can create a healthier home environment, just so that there's more awareness and more education and more knowledge about what goes into creating a healthier space.
Absolutely. And because you're hearing a lot of these terms,
Hmm.
I suspect that the agents are going to start having clients who are asking about it, and
Hmm.
they need to be educated so they know what they're talking about.
Hmm.
What are these people asking for?
Uh-huh. Well, and not only that, there is a whole growing population of people with chronic illness, chronic disease, um, and there's also people with mold sickness who are aware that the built environment is making them sick. And so they're looking for agents who actually can help them. And I think that scares the typical agent, but I have members of my community that are holistic real estate agents or wellness real estate agents. And so they are actively trying to expand their knowledge and their network so that they can help these clients, that they know like what tests to do for mold sensitivity, and that they can actually help navigate the process a little bit better than someone who doesn't have that knowledge.
And there's some movement to that, and this is where we're talking about more than the four walls of your home.
Hmm.
That how are all these principles applied to the entire community?
Hmm.
Uh, for instance, we do not allow lawns
Hmm.
other than in ball fields that we maintain. Uh, and people say, "Oh, how's that going to look?" I can't tell you how few people notice we don't have lawns.
Oh,
We even had a post conference for a big landscape convention, and it was two busloads, probably 50 to 60 people. And on a megaphone, I was giving them a tour in about 20 minutes walking down the street. And I finally said, "What do you notice is really different about this?" And it was, the granite curbs, front porches pulled close to the sidewalk, custom street lights. And I said, "Have any of you noticed there's no lawns?" And they looked at one another. Now, these were professionals.
yeah.
And it dumbfounded them that they had not noticed because it's so obvious when you call it
Yeah.
out.
Yeah.
Uh, and so that's another indication of what we've become used to,
Hmm.
what you think is necessary to sell a home.
Hmm.
The real estate community said you'll never sell a home in the South without a big front lawn. And
Mm.
I said, I don't know how to develop a healthy community if I fill it with sod that has to
Mhm.
be chemicalized, and
Mhm.
then the noise pollutant of the mowers every weekend and
Mhm.
the blowers and all that. It just all these things that we just take for granted and not
Yeah.
thinking about how it's affecting our physical body and our energy system and our emotional system.
So what do you have in place? Is it a little bit because you don't have a lot of flat space, or are there flat areas where you still just don't have
Absolutely,
grass?
but it's a lot of native and ornamental
Hmm.
and for instance, at every crosswalk we have blueberry bushes. Oh, how
Hmm.
exciting this is for
Yeah.
everybody! It just changes the whole perspective of what people are doing. So
Yeah.
no, they're very beautiful and green, but instead of something that's an inch off the ground.
Hmm.
This rain ranges from an H in ground covers and up to 2 feet and 3 feet. And so it's much more flowing and
Mm.
textural than the flat surface of a lawn.
True. Yeah, it requires some creativity.
Well, it requires thought.
Yeah.
But you can see people do not notice it because it looks so natural. Uh,
Well, and when you see, I do feel like plants definitely add value to the home. And so if you were able to have a client who has, what are your thoughts? Let me take a step back. What are your thoughts about all the turf and the plastic grass that goes around that people are putting in?
Well, here again, I think that's certainly better than grass that you have to that you have to chemicalize
Hmm.
and mow constantly. And so, if there's an area,
Hmm.
we allow that in
Hmm.
backyards where people maybe have dogs or they have
Hmm.
an area around a pool or a courtyard that they want a flat, usable area.
Hmm.
We certainly allow that if
Hmm.
the hard surface of a terrace or something like that doesn't work. Uh,
Okay.
and here again, you have to make sure what brand you have that they're not developed with chemical or
Hmm.
type products. You got to make sure it's something that's breathing.
Well, the reason why I ask is because I'm just thinking, as an agent, if someone came to you and they were going to list their home, and maybe it just looked terrible from the curb, what recommendations they could offer to not only make the home just look better, but also just be more sustainable and maybe just incorporate some of this biophilic design.
Well, sure, and there are plenty of books on it, and depends
Mm,
on what region you're in as to what's going to grow.
mhm,
But many times, you can get large swaths of monkey grass and various ground covers
mm,
that give you that green cover
mhm,
that you don't have to mow, you don't have to you don't have to do the chemical fertilizers regularly. And from the street, if it's a front yard that you're not using as play and what have you, and you can walk on it fine, but it's not intended for that. But it gives the same look, but with more texture,
mhm.
than a flat lawn does. And then you go in, you go into your azalea bushes and various things that are actually going to bloom and give you seasonal color and some drop their leaves and give you seasonal colors in the fall and the spring and different varieties of green and then in key places, you start putting, a fig bush and a few
Mhm.
blueberry bushes. And oh my gosh, what kids love that, and they learn about, how food grows, which is key.
Yeah,
But everybody loves it. I mean, I see the smile on your face when I'm just
yeah,
talking about these things,
right.
and so it really it's one of those things that just was natural for us to do.
Yes,
I never imagined what an asset edible landscaping was going to
yeah,
be.
yeah. It's like a surprise around every corner.
That's
And
right.
exactly.
And you
Well,
see the kids, they know that when the serviceberry trees start bearing fruit, that
uh,
soon will be the blueberries, which is everyone's favorite. I mean, it's just we have so many blueberry bushes,
yeah.
and it's just a creating. And they know that following that comes the figs, and then following that are the apple trees, and then the nut trees follow. And so it's really a natural education about our growing seasons.
Yeah, and they'll eat the food because it's growing on and they'll see it grow. But what about I mean, do the people that live in the neighborhood pick all the fruit, or do you have to have gardeners come in and pick it, or does it just fall to the ground, or?
There's enough people picking it that we never have to worry about any of it growing
Really?
down.
Wow, that's amazing. Because you would think that in some I talked to I think it's Agriburbia is the name of the company that helps agrihoods who want to have a farm in their community. They're developers and they help these developers who want a farm manage the farms that they put in. And they had said, a lot of these communities from the past, they might put in a community green space or a community garden. But what happens is the future homeowners don't, they like the idea of it, but they don't really maintain it. And then it ends up just being like a weed area. And if there's, lemon trees, they just rot and then it becomes a house for rats and things like that. So you're
Well,
not
I think
finding
that
those
the,
issues.
the difference, it's a full culture that we
Hmm.
have here.
Hmm.
We also have the farms. People understand what's happening.
Hmm.
Now our HOA groundskeep, they maintain just to make sure that they're seasonally pruned or any
Hmm.
maintenance that has to happen. But we never have to worry about picking. Everyone's out there. But it's a culture of fresh food. It,
Hmm.
it, it isn't just these gardens or the edible landscaping. It's actually our farm that's right on the edge of the houses that has a
Hmm.
CSA program and provides fresh food to our restaurants that are here. And so it's a full culture.
Hmm.
This is a natural part of it, and then there's an excitement that happens. So then at the farmers market on a Saturday in the midst of blueberry season, then there's a blueberry cook-off, and everybody's got all the various things that they have made from the blueberries they picked that week, and so I think the difference is you just can't plant this and people have understand it.
Hmm.
It's to look at the how edible landscaping fits into the full culture of your
Hmm.
neighborhood. And this is what everyone could do in their neighborhood, their street, their cul-de-sac.
Hmm.
If we start making people aware of these simple things, it doesn't cost
Hmm.
money. It
Hmm.
costs energy and many times a little bit of education to understand it. But talk about building spirit in a neighborhood. Edible landscaping and community gardens are one of the best things you can do. And plus, there's plenty of research that working with your hands in dirt
Hmm.
directly relates to mental health.
Wow. Yeah,
And yeah, so why are we shying away from getting our hands dirty?
true, true. Well, it sounds so idyllic. Does anyone ever move away? I mean, uh,
Well, life happens, people
yeah.
get transferred, there are divorces,
Mm-hmm.
there's you have a few people who maybe come here for the ideal to
Mm-hmm.
solve their unhappiness.
Mm-hmm.
And if they're not willing to understand that their unhappiness comes from within, there is no physical place that can change that.
Yeah.
But many times it's the community that brings people out of their shells
Mm-hmm.
or really helps them to understand this is, where else are you going to go or what else are you going to do? So we've had certainly some people it just doesn't give them what they think they want.
Mm-hmm.
But on the same case, we have people that have come here and spouses especially and say, "Hey, I never thought my husband or my wife, I thought they were introverts and they've come here and my goodness,
Yeah.
they've come alive."
Wow. Well, so you have a real estate office there. I'm wondering, do you have statistics on how the home values differ from just other rural communities outside of Atlanta?
Yes, I mean just from knowing now, you have to understand that we're in the area that really had not prospered.
Hmm.
So our homes here are approximately 4 times what houses within 2 miles of us are.
Oh, wow.
But also, we now have taken this and we are at the values of some of the finest high-end neighborhoods in Metro Atlanta.
Wow.
And so you can start to understand the value of connecting to nature
Mm-hmm.
and the density of connecting to one another, that things people thought they didn't want. Now,
Mm-hmm.
this isn't necessarily for everyone, Shirley, but
Mm-hmm.
there's a certain percent, and there are no places really giving this.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is why we're getting more developers. We now have a conference. In fact, it kicks off the end of this month, Nygren Placemaking.
Mm-hmm.
So people from all over the country that want to learn what we've done and how we've done it. Sometimes we have city council members bringing a developer in their area. Sometimes we have developers bringing their city council people to help understand that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a great fun feeling that we're a model that can really inspire and show people what this
Where
means.
where do people find out about that? Because I would think that that would be a good place for maybe some really forward-thinking real estate agents to go to too, and bring some maybe green developers or developers who have that that they want to make some change to go to your event.
Absolutely, and we do have agents that come from
Hmm.
literally all over the country, and we have planners that also some of your big national planners
Hmm.
have come. It's called Nygren Placemaking,
Hmm.
and you can go on our webpage at nygrenplacemaking.com.
Okay, thank you. That's amazing.
And it kicks off the 30th of September. And it's 2.5 days.
Hmm.
And we bring everyone who's worked with us from entitling this, because a lot of the things we've done aren't even in normal codes,
Hmm.
to our landscapers, to our interior designers, to our architects, to the people who program our arts events. And so you really learn from the people who are participating and have in the past, and how we brought this forward. And you learn this, while this is not common, it's not difficult or expensive.
Yeah. Well, and I think agents, they're looking for connection with people, right? They're the connectors. And so they may be really great with people, but they're just not sure how to create that community or be a part of that community because everyone's joining a gym and has their realtor hat on, or everybody, but if you can cultivate a unique community like this, just think about how the return is just, you're not only just helping people find a home, but you're helping them thrive and live better and connecting them with the different kinds of professionals, not someone who can just, paint your house, but someone who understands no VOC painting. Or if they're doing a remodel, you can connect them with the green builder who understands which, um, things aren't going to off gas in your in your house and with your
Exactly.
children.
And then some things about the importance of light.
Hmm.
So let's say you have someone wanting to sell their house, but it feels dark. Well,
Hmm.
one thing, get rid of the drapes. But
Hmm.
the other thing is, maybe you need just one big new window that opens
Hmm.
to the backyard, and then what does
Hmm.
it open to? Is it
Hmm.
green? Sometimes it can be a simple thing like letting light into the house. Uh,
Right.
it's amazing how that affects you.
And
That,
connecting with the air quality too, just making sure that your vent systems are circulating the air so that it's not
Well,
stagnant in there.
that is huge, and
Hmm.
there are a lot now of air monitors and purifiers. So if it isn't happening naturally in the way the house is built,
Hmm.
there's certainly some solutions to work on that.
So how does like green building fit in with what you've been doing at Serenbe? Because I know that building a green home isn't necessarily building a healthy home all the time.
Where we are is we have a lot of taglines to
Hmm.
what I call building responsibly.
Okay.
And so while they each have different points to do these various things, and so one might focus on the green homes, and that's a lot about the products that are used,
Hmm.
uh, but may not focus on the air quality
Hmm.
and some of the other things. And so, it depends on where the focus is.
Hmm.
What few look at is the noise pollution.
Mm.
And so we require geothermal because they're silent. Not only do they save your energy, but it's silent. And we forget about how noise is really affecting our energy system.
Hmm.
And we just shut it out because we don't think there's an alternative. But if you're in a community that's all geothermal, you notice it because you hear the birds, you hear nature, and we've forgotten what
Wow.
nature sounds like.
I never knew that. That's awesome. Is geothermal just for heat or is that also for
No, it's for
AC?
heating and air conditioning.
Oh. And that's where it's just how far down does it have to go to become
Well,
to work?
it depends on where you are, because it's how far you have to go to the water table.
Oh,
So
okay.
that can be anywhere from 40 feet to several hundred feet, depending on where you are.
Hmm.
We
Hmm.
also have loops in lakes,
Hmm.
and so it doesn't have to be a well necessarily. It can also be coils that are in a lake that's at least 30 feet deep.
Hmm. Wow. Tell us about the farm a little bit. I know that the agrihood term was coined after your neighborhood, but there's a lot of agrihoods that are popping up all over the country, and they may have a farm, but I know that we've talked about the biophilic design, but maybe just tell us a little bit more about your farm.
Sure, I mean, when we looked at what we were going to do, of course, I grew up from a generational farm family.
Mm.
And so it was just natural that we were going to have a farm. And I didn't realize that for the last 50 years, we have not put housing next to farms because there's been an
Mhm.
attitude that farms are stinky and no one wanted to live there. Well, institutional farms may be, but
Mhm.
an organic farm isn't.
Mhm.
And so I was really kind of surprised at the huge amount of interest there was in the fact that we put a farm. It's probably sold more houses than any one thing we did. I thought it might be the stables with the horses,
Yeah.
or the various things. People are wanting freshness. They're
Yeah.
wanting that authenticity.
Yeah.
And the farm certainly brought that. And so we have the farms literally. There's a row of houses and you can hang over the back fence and talk to the farmer. They back right up to it.
Oh, that's
Uh,
awesome.
and it's we operate it as a nonprofit teaching farm. So we're growing vegetables and fruit as well as farmers. Uh,
That's great.
and we have CSA, that's your community supported agriculture,
Hmm.
where people pay by the growing season, at the beginning of the growing season. And that gives the farmers the money to get their seeds and the labor and the things they need. And
Hmm.
then every week you show up to get your share of the harvest. And they have it all set up like a supermarket row. And with the signs, you get either a certain number of things or a certain poundage of things.
Yeah.
And then at the end of that long line is an exchange box. So if there's something in there you didn't really like, you can put it in the box and take something out that
Oh,
maybe you would prefer to have.
nice.
Uh, and people are exchanging recipes. That 3 hours on Tuesday night turns into a social event as well.
Yeah.
Because many times we're growing things that people haven't seen in the grocery stores for years, uh,
Right.
because it didn't have a shelf life. And I'll tell you, once people and kids start tasting fresh lettuce, fresh tomatoes, carrots
Hmm.
that are fresh, it starts changing what they think about and what they'll eat. And
Hmm.
it's just it's just such a community spirit that goes on. And we also have volunteer days. So
Hmm.
if you want to come volunteer, you do that. When we started, we said there was an area we would do. You could reserve your own plot to grow your own food,
Hmm.
but you had to volunteer for at least 1 year so you understood organic gardening
Hmm.
and you sort of we had to qualify you. Um, no one has reserved a spot because they find out it's more fun to just go show up,
Yeah.
volunteer, and then if you don't feel like it that day, you don't really have to.
Yeah.
The things aren't going to die if you're not there
Right.
to water it or weed it
Right.
and what have you.
Right.
So
That's funny. Well, then do you have restaurants that also use the food as well?
we do. We have 5 restaurants currently on property, plus the Country Inn, and then we have uh, bamboo juice, which is the cold pressed juice, and they use whatever we can grow there. Plus, of course, you have to bring in. We have 5 coffee shops now, and
Mhm.
there's various things. Austin's one of our newest bars. They all use herbs and various things growing to garnish or actually do some of the oils or juices for some of the drinks. So
Yeah.
it's a complete culture
Yeah.
of freshness, if you will.
Well, it really is like a village. You don't really have to go into Atlanta very often then.
I have 7 grandchildren living here. All those girls brought their another northern husbands home,
Yeah.
and they don't know what it's like to be in a car seat because
Wow.
their school's here, their pediatricians here, their
Yeah.
friends are here, their pickup games. It just is a different lifestyle.
Yeah.
There's so much talk about kids controlling kids' screen time.
Hmm.
W- w- We as adults aren't facing the fact that we've created an atmosphere.
Hmm.
It's the only way kids can connect many times with their friends. They
Hmm.
either have to negotiate with their parents to be a chauffeur to take them someplace,
Hmm.
or they go online.
Hmm.
And we just have to think about that culture we have. It's very
Hmm.
fearful culture where we don't really allow our kids out of our sight.
Hmm.
And so
True.
I think that's where we have to focus on change
Hmm.
rather than thinking about control.
Right. When I was little, I used to climb trees and there was big space, open space behind our house. But as I grew older, more houses came in. And when I had my kids, we certainly didn't have a lot of green. I mean, we lived in the city, and so I wasn't going to let my kids just roam around the city by themselves, you know? So we did. We were the parents that carted them to everything, and we would go to the park, but everybody would have to go to the park together, and they couldn't just walk to the park themselves. And you know, I feel
And so
like as a generation, the millennials, they're not as independent as I was the X generation. So we were like the latchkey kids and we were had to be resourceful because we were at home a lot by ourselves. But this generation seems like the parents are not, for safety reasons, don't want to let them out on their own, but so they're less independent.
Interesting. Are you familiar with Richard Louve's work, Last Child in the Woods?
Oh, I've heard of that, but I haven't read it.
It's a great book, and he talks about all these issues and how so many of our children today are being raised in such controlled social
Mm-hmm.
uh, uh, and physical environments.
Mm-hmm.
There's part of the brain actually not developing the pituitary,
Mm-hmm.
which is what you would associate with a lot of common sense.
Mm-hmm.
And he's also notes that there's less stranger on child crime
Mm-hmm.
today than there was in 1950.
Mm-hmm.
That today we feel like it's in our backyard no matter what happens around the world.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's created this entire atmosphere of fear and
Mm-hmm.
feeling that you have to see your children all the time. But
Mm-hmm.
it's actually I think doing a lot of damage.
Mm-hmm. Wow. And so you've made all of this change just by working in your own backyard and starting to help your own community. And look at what you've created. I mean, that's pretty amazing. It's so inspirational because I feel like if you're a holistic agent, you're wanting to make change, and there's only a handful of agents that are doing this now. But I do feel like in the future, people are going to want to know who's the wellness agent in their area that can help them because they have chronic disease or whatever, and they need to find a healthy home.
I think you're finding this is when big corporations are starting to change and talk about
Mhm.
big financial institutions. It's a changing market.
Mhm.
My generation and older generations, we've grown up in a prospering world where we
Mhm.
didn't talk about, all these things that we're talking about now.
Mhm.
Younger people have grown up in a fragile world where this is
Mhm.
them all the time.
Mhm.
And as they're moving into being decision makers, this is top of mind for them. And
Mhm.
they're going to be asking more of the questions and they're going to make their decisions on people who've responded to a lot of these environmental and health issues.
Yes, they definitely the younger generations are much more health conscious, which is a really good thing.
But this is why the market is going to have to be ready to respond to them.
Hmm. Hmm. I agree. Gosh, well, thank you so much. I appreciate you and I appreciate you sharing your book. Where can they get this and when does it come out?
It's coming out October 7th. Thank you for
Hmm.
asking. You can find it anywhere you can buy books.
Okay.
So a lot of local bookstores now have it. Our publishers have put that out. You can find it on Amazon and wherever you want to go. And then I now have a webpage they put up, and it's stevenygren.com.
Okay. Great. I'll put that in the show notes too.
And
So,
then if you want to learn more about the community, it's serenbe.com.
yes.
And then if you want to come to our conference, nygrenplacemaking.com. So we have
Yes,
very
you
simple.
should. I actually know of a develop. I actually know a couple developers. I should just text them about that because one of them is in Florida and she's an agent who's turned developer because there's so many hurricanes down in Cal and down in Florida that she was like, why do we keep building the homes exactly the same for another hurricane to come? You know,
Yeah.
she's like, we should be building them different. And so she's working with architects and builders and trying to create something new.
And there's solutions to all these things. So,
Hmm.
yeah, I
Hmm.
think when I last looked, I think we have about four more spots left. So, if anyone's
Okay.
interested, come on and register. Come join us.
Okay.
And you
Thank
get
you
to
so
walk
much,
the
Steve.
streets. I mean, we're not just in a ballroom. We
Yeah,
do some of that, but we are also on the streets walking and talking, and you can actually see and touch and feel and even talk to some of the residents.
love it. Thank you so much, Steve.
Well, thanks for your interest in the conversation.
Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. I hope you learned something new that will inspire you to think about your branding and how you can market yourself a little differently. If you enjoyed this episode, then you're going to love what I have for you, because you don't need to wait to go get extra certifications or to grow and expand your network to get started attracting those new leads right now. You can simply begin by talking about wellness real estate trends and what you've learned on this podcast with others. I mean, this is pretty interesting stuff that no one has heard about, and I have all the tools that can make it even easier for you. Wellness Real Estate Magazine is a brand new wellness lifestyle magazine, and it's the only magazine that brings health and home together. We educate readers on industry trends and how to create a healthier home environment, written by industry experts around the country. And we have 3 covers to choose from: Wellness RE, Healthy Home, and Wellness at Home, so you can easily find one that aligns with your unique brand and messaging. These magazines are the perfect done-for-you tools that help you not only stay top of mind, but they educate and engage your audience, which positions you as an industry expert. Differentiate yourself and grow your brand the easy way. Learn more at healthyhomemedia.com.